Hi, my name is Layla Brosis, and I am a MSW candidate for the School of Social Work. And welcome to my study on community, care, and connection, understanding the impact of social programming on Kupuna well-being. To begin, I would like to share a bit of background through my literature review, which consists of three different parts. First, quality of life and loneliness. Studies show that there is a bidirectional relationship between social isolation and quality of life among older adults, with 26% of adults 50 to 80 years old reporting feelings of isolation in 2018, 55% in 2020. Given the high rates of older adults experiencing loneliness and social isolation during the pandemic, rates have always been high before and continue to be high today. Next, technology as a double-edged sword. During the pandemic, technology became the world's main source of connection and communication. This change led to a digital divide amongst Kupuna due to the loss of in-person contact and a lack of understanding towards technology. This change led to an increase of mental health issues and an increase of loneliness. Kupuna continue to experience challenges with technology today. Lastly, housing-based interventions, which has been shown in a research study to be a powerful tool for mitigating isolation for older adults. Overall, supportive housing programs have been seen to increase housing stability for those with support needs, therefore being supportive for the quality of life amongst those living in the programs. In summary, the elderly can be considered a vulnerable population, and it's important to have services in place to support their overall quality of life. With the constant evolution of society, it is also important to be able to meet them where they're at. However, I did run into some limitations in my literature review. While data was available about supportive housing impacts, specific data about supportive social programming lacked. There was also a lack of data that focused on time periods other than the pandemic. Relevance to practice, social workers acknowledge that this population of the Kupuna are vulnerable, and they recognize what is needed at this time to benefit their livelihoods. Now I would like to talk a bit about my field placement for the school year, which was at Institute for Human Services, in other words, IHS. So IHS is a nonprofit organization that works with the homeless population and focuses on ending and preventing homelessness. A few examples of services that are provided at IHS is housing services, outreach, meals, and case management. The mission of IHS is to create and offer tailored solutions for those in crisis and nurture homeless people toward greater self-direction and responsibility. Specifically for my practicum, I was located within a permanent housing program for low-income and recently homeless families in Kupuna. For my capstone, the question that I focused on was, how does participation in community programs and activities influence perceived loneliness and quality of life among Kupuna living in a supportive housing program in Honolulu, Hawaii? The study was guided by the theoretical framework of ecological systems theory, which helped me to better understand the different systems that are influencing Kupuna's well-being. I utilized a qualitative research design and focused on the Kupuna specifically who lived by themselves in this housing program. I conducted 1 hour semi-structured interviews and utilized a qualitative data analysis. So these are some of the flyers for the events that I had planned out for the Kupuna: Easter bingo, karaoke, dessert social, and chair volleyball. However, out of the three, I was only able to execute 2 events, and this is something that I will talk about more in the next slide. Overall, my events had 6 participants out of the 12 single household Kupunas. I planned 3 events, but executed 2, and I was only able to conduct 2 in-person semi-structured interviews. For demographic data, the participants ranged from 62 to 80 years old and had diverse ethnic backgrounds, such as Colombian, Hawaiian, and African American. My study did hold limitations. First, Hawaii experienced the Kona storms, which led to the cancellation of my event for the residents' safety. With the storms, it deterred a lot of the Kupuna from coming to interviews. So, of course, this led to a smaller sample size. And also, patient protections and complexities being at the forefront of this study, approvals to move forward with the events and the activities and interviews were delayed a little bit. So overall, due to uncontrollable circumstances, my study wasn't able to be fully concluded. However, through interviews and discussions, I was able to prove some important points. For my interviews, three themes were identified: sense of purpose in daily lives, a deeper connection to the Kupuna population, and a decent distraction to take up some time in their lives during the day. All of these themes are influencing their quality of life and levels of loneliness, even if they don't recognize it. While some found these events to be helpful towards their loneliness and overall mood, others did not. Creating Kupuna specific events did allow for more intentional time between the community and cultivated relationships that can also be held outside of the activities. It gives Kupuna something to look forward to in their day and something that can take up some time. For my recommendations, at the micro level, I encourage individuals to acknowledge Kupuna as a population and as a community in their living situations. At the macro level, I encourage the implementation of consistent social programming for Kupuna to continue supporting their sense of purpose in the community. And at the meso level, I encourage agencies to apply for different sources of funding to provide Kupuna with more resources and activities in housing programs. So in conclusion, while my study was not able to be completed due to various limitations, the data was able to be conducted and prove that Kupuna-specific events and programs can be impactful. Being consistent and having open communication with the community can only support these benefits further. Here are a list of the resources that were utilized during the study, and thank you so much for watching.